The first bell of the morning rang sharply through the halls of Westbrook Ridge High School, bouncing off the pale green lockers and polished tile floors. It sounded ordinary, just another school day beginning, but for Ms. Elena Carter, it marked the start of something much bigger. It was her first day at Westbrook. She stood just inside the main entrance for a moment, clutching a leather folder against her chest, taking in the noise, the movement, the chaos. Students hurried past her in clumps, their laughter loud and unfiltered, their whispers quick and sharp. She was 29, younger than most of the teachers on staff, with thoughtful hazel eyes and a calm presence that seemed almost out of place in a building buzzing with teenage energy. She had left a comfortable counseling job in the city to come here, a small-town school known more for its discipline problems than its academic awards. To most people, it didn't make sense, but Elena hadn't come here by accident. As she walked down the hallway toward her assigned classroom, conversations dipped slightly. A few students looked her up and down. Some smiled politely. Others exchanged knowing smirks. She recognized the look immediately, the testing gaze. Teenagers could sense uncertainty the way sharks sensed blood in water. Near a row of lockers stood 3 boys, leaning casually as if they owned the space. One of them, broad-shouldered with perfectly styled hair and an expression carved from arrogance, watched her approach without blinking. When she offered a warm smile and said, "Good morning," he didn't respond. Instead, he tilted his head slightly and muttered just loud enough for her to hear, "Fresh target." The boys beside him snickered. His name, she would soon learn, was Mason Reed, captain of the football team, charismatic, sharp-tongued, untouchable, the kind of student teachers whispered about in the staff lounge. With him were his loyal shadows, Tyler Boone and Eric Vaughn, both eager to laugh at his jokes and amplify his cruelty. Elena continued walking, refusing to let her expression shift, but she tightened her grip on her folder just slightly. She had dealt with boys like Mason before, or at least she thought she had. The first week tested her patience in ways she hadn't expected. In class, students whispered while she spoke, passed folded notes across aisles, and suppressed laughter when she turned to write on the board. When she asked questions, silence filled the room like heavy fog. Once, when a paper airplane landed at her feet mid-lesson, a ripple of laughter followed. She bent down, picked it up, and calmly placed it on her desk without a word. That seemed to unsettle them more than if she had yelled. Only one student consistently participated, Lily Grant, a quiet girl who sat near the window, her notebooks always neat, her hand raised hesitantly, but bravely. The moment Lily answered correctly, however, the room would erupt in exaggerated sighs or sarcastic applause. Elena noticed the way Lily's shoulders shrank each time, the way she avoided eye contact afterward. The dynamic was clear. Mason ruled the room, and everyone else followed. Each afternoon, after the final bell rang and the halls emptied, Elena remained behind in her classroom, erasing the board slowly, replaying the day in her mind. There were moments she questioned her decision to come here. She could have stayed in her old position, safe, respected, effective, but safety had never been her goal. She hadn't told anyone at Westbrook about her previous job. Before becoming a teacher, she had spent 4 years as a behavioral counselor in a juvenile rehabilitation center. She had sat across from teenagers who had committed serious crimes, teens hardened by neglect, abuse, abandonment. She had learned that aggression was often armor, that cruelty usually masked fear, and that the loudest bullies were sometimes the most broken. Still, knowing that didn't make this easy. The real confrontation happened on a storm-heavy Friday afternoon. Rain battered the windows in thick sheets, and distant thunder rolled like a warning. Most students had rushed home early to avoid the downpour, but Elena stayed late in the library, organizing research materials for an upcoming assignment. The library had quickly become her refuge, the scent of old books and polished wood calming in a way the classroom wasn't. She sensed them before she saw them. The library door creaked open, and footsteps echoed across the quiet floor. Mason entered first, hands tucked casually into his jacket pockets, his confidence radiating. Tyler and Eric followed, grinning with that same dangerous amusement she had come to recognize. "Burning the midnight oil, Miss Carter?" Mason asked lightly, though his eyes were anything but friendly. "It's not midnight," she replied evenly, closing the file in front of her. "Shouldn't you three be heading home? The weather's getting worse." Tyler walked behind her chair, glancing at the scattered papers. "We just thought we'd have a little chat," he said. "Yeah," Eric added, nudging a stack of books aside. "You've been pretty tough on us lately." Mason leaned forward, placing both palms flat on the table, favoring certain students, making the rest of us look bad. Her gaze didn't waver. "Encouraging participation isn't favoritism." "Sure it is," Mason replied smoothly. "You've got a soft spot for Lily." Before she could answer, Tyler walked back to the entrance and turned the lock with a deliberate click. The sound echoed louder than the thunder outside. Elena's pulse quickened, but her face remained calm. She recognized this moment for what it was: a power play, a test of fear. "You think you're in control here," Mason said quietly, stepping closer. "But this school runs on different rules." She studied him carefully, noticing the tension in his jaw, the flicker in his eyes. Then she asked something he clearly didn't expect. "How long have you been this angry, Mason?" The shift was immediate. "What are you talking about?" he snapped. "Anger doesn't appear out of nowhere," she continued softly. "It builds. Usually after something hurts." Tyler and Eric exchanged uneasy glances. "You don't know anything about me," Mason said, though his voice had lost some of its edge. "I know that people who feel powerful by humiliating others are usually trying to outrun something painful," she replied. "Did that start before or after your mother moved out?" The words hit like a physical blow. His eyes widened for half a second, just long enough. "How do you write about it?" she said gently. "Your essays. They're full of abandonment metaphors, storms, empty houses, doors closing." Silence filled the room, thick and electric. Tyler stepped back slightly. Eric's grin had completely vanished. "You act untouchable," Elena continued, her voice steady. "But you're not. You're hurting. And instead of dealing with it, you're making everyone else carry it for you." "Shut up," Mason muttered, though there was no real force behind it. "You don't scare me," she said quietly. "I've worked with boys who thought fear made them strong. It didn't. It just made them lonelier." His fists clenched, but he didn't move closer. "You still have a choice," she added. "You can keep going down this road, or you can decide you're more than your anger." Before he could respond, a sharp knock pounded against the library door. The handle rattled. "Open this door immediately." It was Principal Hargrove. Apparently, Lily had seen the boys enter and, sensing something was wrong, had alerted the office. Tyler hurried to unlock the door. The principal stormed in, eyes blazing as he took in the scene: the locked door, the tense silence, the scattered papers. "What is going on here?" he demanded. No one answered. Elena simply gathered her materials calmly. "A misunderstanding," she said. The boys were escorted out, their earlier bravado completely dissolved. The following week, something shifted across Westbrook Ridge High. Mason didn't make eye contact during class. Tyler and Eric stayed unusually quiet. The whispers stopped. The paper airplanes never returned. Lily's hand rose more confidently, and this time, no one mocked her. One afternoon, as students filed out, Mason lingered by Elena's desk. "I didn't think you'd actually say anything," he muttered. "About what?" "About that stuff." She met his gaze. "Truth isn't something to weaponize. It's something to heal with," he swallowed. "I was out of line." "Yes," she said gently. "You were. I'll try to do better. That's all I ask." Months passed, and the transformation became undeniable. Mason joined the debate team, channeling his intensity into argument instead of intimidation. Tyler signed up for community service hours voluntarily. Eric began helping in the library after school. Lily started smiling more really smiling. By the end of the school year, the story of what happened in the library had spread quietly through the student body. No one knew exactly what Miss Carter had said that day. They only knew that after that moment, Mason Reed was different. The teachers stopped dreading his name. The students stopped flinching when he walked by. On the final morning before summer break, Elena stood by her classroom window watching students spill into the courtyard, laughter bright and genuine this time. She realized then that strength didn't always roar. Sometimes it stood still. Sometimes it spoke softly. Sometimes it looked a bully in the eye and saw not a villain, but a wounded child. She hadn't won by humiliating them. She hadn't needed to raise her voice. She had faced cruelty with clarity and anger with empathy. And in doing so, she taught them a lesson no textbook ever could. Because the scariest thing a bully can encounter isn't someone stronger. It's someone who understands them. And that understanding changed everything.